Well, as you can see by the screen on this Monday evening, flash flooding and severe storms are becoming more likely. And you can see already that things are already looking kind of interesting in terms of the models right now and just in terms of the severe weather risk as we move forward throughout the next couple of days here. And then I think as we move on even further on into later into the week, going into next week, there also could be some more severe weather. There could be some more flash flooding on the table as we move closer and closer towards the those parts there. So I think that that's going to be something to watch for. We're going to talk about that. Also, what is on tap for tonight? Dense smoke from the Horse Island wildfire affecting northeastern Berkeley County and nearby areas. Persistent heat with highs in the low to mid 90s. Heat indices 100 to 105 degrees into the midweek. And a cold front brings higher precipitation chances, excessive rainfall, severe storms Wednesday and Friday. And we're going to continue to monitor tropical depression too. We're going to continue to monitor that in all of the impacts, that it still could potentially take for us. So all of that we're going to go on and get into. If you've not hit the like button yet or the subscribe button yet, please go on and do so. Also hit the share button, share with your friends, family members, acquaintances, people that you don't talk to regularly because it's free, it's free, it's free. And also, first stream, 8 o'clock p.m. Hopefully, all does go well, but I'm going to continue to watch for it, see what happens with the chat, see what happens with the viewers as well. And so, I'm your meteorologist, Joseph Peterson, and let's go in and talk about the weather. So, starting off, what's currently going on? Well, you can see that you do have some rainfall going on right now up in the northern parts of the state, rather be over here near Chester, near Great Falls. Also, over here near Anderson, you have some rainfall going on. Over here near Due West, you have some rainfall. And then look at all these storms that we have going on from Aiken down to Williston, over near Gadsden as well. And then even as we go on and move your way over, over into like the east towards Dillon, there also is some shower activity over here as well. So we do have some rainfall definitely going on. But what happens if we look into the entire U.S.? Well, we do have some rainfall, some severe storms even going on in North Carolina, some storms in Georgia, some more rainfall in Mississippi, and then even some more flooding going on in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Nevada, some storms in Colorado, Utah, California. And then there is a tornado watch going on right now. You can see up there in Wisconsin. You can see over there inside of Michigan. There's also another severe thunderstorm watch going on over there as well. That expires in about 6 hours. So they have a long way to go there. Long way to go. And then there's obviously about to be, which actually I think it is. I think they just updated it to Tropical Storm Bertha, literally hot off the press. Yep, just hot off the press a couple of minutes ago. Tropical Storm Bertha is now with us with 40-mile-per-hour winds, and it seems like it has a central pressure right now of 1,004 millibars. So, I mean, that is completely just happened. As Tropical Storm Bertha is now with us at this time. So we're going to get into all of that again, but let's go and talk about cloud cover. Well, currently cloud cover almost statewide. You're seeing from the upstate to the Midlands to the Low Country, even over into the Grand Strand areas. Cloud cover is definitely a factor as we continue throughout the entire state. Now, if we look at cloud cover for the future, you move over into tonight. Looks like cloud cover is going to continue to move its way from the north down to the south. We go to around 6 a.m. all the way to around 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, and cloud cover is going to continue to push its way down from north to south. Now, as you go into the afternoon here, Tuesday afternoon going into Tuesday evening, cloud cover is going to build even more, especially as we get more and more into Wednesday morning and Wednesday afternoon. Now, what about our current temperatures? Well, right now we're talking about 84 in Charleston, 85 in Somerville, 84 Georgetown, even 83 in Myrtle Beach, 85 in Conway, and 84 in Orangeburg, 89 in Columbia and Newberry, as well as 90 in Greenville, 89 Spartanburg, and 86 in Gaffney, 89 York, 90 inside of Rock Hill, and even 91 in Clemson still. Now, for our air quality for tonight, obviously we know that a good amount, if not most of us, is included inside of a moderate risk of air quality for tonight. And that's mainly just because of the conditions that we currently have in the upper atmosphere. Now, also, Berkeley County, we know that we have the Horse Island wildfire currently going on, around 1,000 acres plus right now. So there is definitely a good amount of smoke going in there that's going to affect the air quality over, especially in northeastern Berkeley County at this time. And so, is there any more information on it right now? They say that it grows to at least 800 acres, even though I've seen reports that it's 1,000. So I don't know why some is saying 800, some is saying 1,000. But at this time, it says residents are continuing. Residents on the Cane Swamp Lake Lane and then the Tiger Corner Road are advised to be aware of fire activity and ready to leave if directed by law enforcement. Crews will continue to work to what they could call to fortify their fire lines, which is making sure that the fire doesn't cross an established boundary. That's what the Berkeley County Emergency Management Director says. And also, firefighters are continuing to bulldoze to create fuel breaks. A lot of that stuff that we did talk about yesterday. And 30 firefighters from the U.S. Forest Service has been joined by 25 firefighters from North Berkeley Fire, South Berkeley Fire, and then the Allendale-McClellanville department as well. So there's a lot of experts saying that residents can help mitigate exposure by reducing inhalation through monitoring air quality, filtering indoor air, wearing masks, sealing their homes. Drivers should use caution while traveling on Horse Island Road and due to firefighting activity. So if you're in that area, in the northern Berkeley County area, please make sure that you are aware of that. and that you're really paying attention to that. Now, as we go into low temperatures for tonight, we're talking about 75 in Greenville, 74 Spartanburg, even 76 in Columbia. Orangeburg also at 76. Kingstree 76, 77 Moncks Corner, even 83 in Charleston, 80 in Myrtle Beach, and 83 inside of Hilton Head Island. High temperatures for tomorrow, we're talking about 97 in Columbia, 96 in Orangeburg, even 95 in Moncks Corner, 92 in Charleston, 93 in Georgetown, 91 Myrtle Beach, and 94 inside of Dillon, 96 in Cheraw. Now, for our heat index values for tomorrow, it looks like that the majority of us are going to be, again, trying to get to that 100-degree mark in terms of heat index values. Now, as you go towards the coastal areas, we may see like 108, 209 to 110, but it looks like that the majority of us are going to be mainly in the lower 100s, maybe the mid 100s. Rainfall as we move into the next 24 hours or so, you're talking about maybe 1/100 of an inch to 1/10 of an inch over for Rock Hill, Dillon, even Moncks Corner, 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch over for Cheraw, and then maybe even 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch for a good amount of other areas over there near Marlboro County. So a lot of things here could go into where the placement of rainfall could be. That's why it's more of a spread out area. Also, it's summertime, so showers and storms aren't really too placed well by models. But one thing that we do know is that this is just a rough estimate of how much rainfall all of these areas could see. Keyword could see over the next 24 hours. Now, severe weather time. So, starting off with tonight, there is still a marginal risk of severe weather. We'll see what they do with it as we go over the next hour or so. Because usually they update it at 9 o'clock, which is when we usually would go live. But for right now, it does look like that we're just continuing to kind of just look at the models and just see what happens, see what the models have to say for the future. But we're gonna look at it Monday first tonight. Marginal risk of severe weather up there for Spartanburg, for Rock Hill, going into the northern PD areas. And what's the risk? Well, obviously damaging winds. 5% risk of damaging winds as you go into tonight. So make sure that you're watching for that. Tomorrow, Tuesday, July the 21st, again, another marginal risk of severe weather, again, for Greenville, for Spartanburg, for Rock Hill, over there into northern Marlboro counties, going over into areas like Chesterfield and Pageland, South Carolina as well. And so that is, again, what do you expect? Damaging winds. Damaging winds being the main aspect once again. And then as we move over into Wednesday was the big day, but seems like they have kind of decreased their confidence on Wednesday's severe threat, which is a good thing. Looks like we're around a slight risk of severe weather again for areas like Chesterfield over towards Wallace and Boykin, South Carolina. And then a marginal risk that includes from Spartanburg to Greenville, down all the way into the low country, all the way over into Myrtle Beach. I mean, there is that risk of severe weather throughout pretty much a good amount of the state, no matter where you are. Now, we'll see if they expand it. We'll see if they, lose even more confidence. But for right now, marginal risk takes over a majority of the state. Light green down there in the low country areas, like in the Charleston area, Hilton Head Island, over into the southern Tri-County, over into the very lower low country there. Now, in terms of excessive rainfall, this is another thing that I'm kind of interested to look at, because I think that a lot of people aren't really talking too much about this flooding threat that we have as we move throughout the next 5 days or so, and maybe even on to the future. Once we get into the models, I'll talk about it. But as you go over into starting off into tonight, we still have that risk of isolated flash flooding up here in the upstate. Currently, there is not really too much in terms of rainfall right now, but we still have that risk there. And then as we go over into tomorrow, no risk there. Day 3, this is on Wednesday now. Wednesday, we have isolated flash flooding for Greenwood through Newberry, Saluda, Camden, Columbia, Florence, Marion, Bennettsville. These areas have a 5% risk of flash flooding. And then the yellow from Walhalla all the way through Greenville, Spartanburg, Gaffney, Rock Hill, you have a 15% risk of flash flooding over the next, day 3, which is, again, on Wednesday. Now, as we go over into Thursday, now we're looking at the more eastern areas. Marginal risk of excessive rainfall for the entire state, except for Florence, over there near Conway, Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, and Dillon. But those areas aren't out the clear because they have an even higher risk of flash flooding over there, for a 15% risk of flash flooding as you move over into that day 4 risk, which is Thursday again. And then as you move over into Friday comes along from Florence over into Conway, again Myrtle Beach, over into Andrews and Georgetown, another risk of flash flooding again for these eastern areas. So I think that could maybe even go on even further on into the future. And you may be asking, well, why in the world is all this happening here? It's due to a stalled front that we'll be talking about as we move into the next, couple of minutes here. As we move into the models, I'll show you what I'm talking about. But there is that slight risk that is there in the eastern areas, and guess what? Most of the state, again, in that marginal risk of severe weather. So now let's go on and take a look at the crazy score. Currently, we're at an 11 right now, and really the only two things that I see, the dense smoke advisory, then still we have the beach hazard statements, but that doesn't start until tomorrow at 6 a.m. So really just the dense smoke advisory in Berkeley County due to the Horse Island wildfire that's causing the crazy score to have an additional 4 points to it. But overall, still, things are calm right now for the majority of us. There still is some shower, maybe some storm activity going on in a couple of spots, but for right now, the majority of us is looking calm. So what's going on in terms of the models? Well, in terms of the models right now, it does look like that as we continue to move into the shorter term here, we're going to start off here at 8 p.m., not 9 p.m., and as we push this forward, as we move into tonight, I mean, that shower and storm activity is pretty much gone. We're not really seeing too much there in terms of shower and storm activity once we get to around, 11 to 12 o'clock in the morning. Now, as you move over into, like, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., moving all the way to 11 a.m., 12 p.m. even, you're not seeing anything. I mean, it looks nice, it looks dry, it looks fantastic. Now, afternoon, time comes in, and remember, for day 2, tomorrow, we have a marginal risk of severe weather up there in the upstate. So make sure that you watch for that area, because as we go into around 5 p.m. or so, you're still not seeing anything up there. But what happens if we move even further? Okay, 7, 8 p.m., we're seeing some showers, some storm activity in the low country, the Midland areas again. But look up there inside of the Tennessee Valley areas going into North Carolina. Look at all that shower and storm activity. We move into around 1 o'clock in the morning, and you can see that there is some shower activity that tries to move into the upstate late night, going to like 12 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. But things kind of just go away after a hot minute, and overall, things just continue to look good. So I think that Tuesday, tomorrow, especially as we move into tomorrow night, I mean, that's either a boom or bust scenario here, I believe. Because either you may not see as much, you may just see like a little shower, or you could see, again, a damaging storm come in with damaging winds of up to 60 miles per hour. Now, remember that models, for when it does come to severe weather, for when it does come to, exact rainfall, how heavy the rainfall may be, that is not really the specialty. That's not really the specialty. It's not really there to see how heavy the rain is falling. And, just because you have red on the radar does not mean that it's necessarily a thunderstorm. It could just be heavy rainfall. Nor even if you have a light rainfall. You can see light rainfall and still have a thunderstorm as well. But I'm really just watching to see, because it looks like it could be a late night threat going into, Wednesday morning. So I think that that's the time frame for tomorrow for severe storms. And again, as we move into Wednesday, almost the entire state has a risk of severe weather, and we definitely all have a risk of thunderstorm activity. Same thing on day 2, where the entire state has a risk of thunderstorm activity. But Wednesday, you can already see by 1 to 2 p.m., showers and storms already starting to form again in those western areas of the Low Country and the CSRA areas. It just continues to form in these western areas first, before they continue to move their way towards the east and more towards the north. But Also watching for some showers and storms up there again, Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and see that might try to move its way down towards the south and east into the state as well. So all of that we're keeping an eye on. All of that we're going to have to see what happens, but we're going to go on real quick and move on into the long-term future. So let's go even further than that. First thing that I immediately notice is that there goes Bertha. Now Bertha, if you weren't here about 15 minutes ago or so, Bertha, hot off the press, is now formed. It's now Tropical Storm Bertha now in the Gulf. No longer Tropical Depression 2. And so it seems like that that storm, according to the GFS, wants to try and continue its way west over towards areas of like Louisiana near New Orleans and those southern areas there. Now, that's just what one model says. We'll go over the ensembles and see what they have to say. But for right now, that's what we're looking at. Now, one thing that I am watching for with Bertha in general is the remnants of it. So you may be asking, what in the world is the remnants? Well, the remnants is what happens after the actual tropical storm is done. And so I want to see what all of that moisture tries to do to us over here in the state of South Carolina over here. So as you push this forward, obviously we have Wednesday's severe threat. That's going to try and move through, get through. And then as you get into around Thursday, watch this rainfall over us. See how it kind of just stays over us through Thursday, going over into Friday, almost even into Saturday. I mean, this is a stalled front right here. This front is going to stay over us and going to cause rainfall, beneficial rainfall. And so that's one of the reasons why we have that flash flooding risk as we move into Thursday and as we move over into Friday. And as you move even into, for example, Saturday going over into Sunday, look how much rainfall we still have. And then there goes another low pressure that tries to form even as we get over into the weekend. This is Sunday at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have a low pressure right off the coast. And so, again, Bertha was just right here. But watch how Bertha kind of goes over into Texas a little bit. And, you know, we have to look at a wider view here. But I'm mainly just trying to see what in the world that energy is going to do. If that energy is going to try and circle back, is that moisture going to try and circle back, and what's the front going to do? Because usually, once you get like a cold front, once you get a just a front in general, you usually tropical storms don't really like that. You know, hurricanes don't really like that, so it's going to break it down, and so that's one of the main reasons why Bertha is also going to kind of just decrease, as well as it's also going over land. So both of those kind of have an acting force towards it. So the front's going to kind of tear it apart. But again, just look how much moisture as you move over into later on this week, going into next weekend here. Now, as you push even, past that, we go through Monday, going into Tuesday, we're still seeing a good amount of rainfall. Even into Wednesday, look over into Thursday, Friday. I mean, continuing to stay active, even as we move into early August, even into early August. Now, how much rainfall are we expecting? We're going to look at the next 300 hours first from the GEFS, and overall, it says around 2.5 inches to maybe even around 4 inches or so for parts of the state. And if we go in and take a look over at the European as well, European kind of has us over the next 360 hours, has us maybe around 3.5 to around 5 to maybe even around 6 inches of rainfall. Maybe even 6 inches of rainfall. That's an average. That's an average of multiple members put together saying 6 inches of rainfall over there in parts of the PD area as you move throughout the next 360 hours. That would be greatly appreciated if it wasn't in a flash flood manner, but obviously it is. But another thing also that you have to realize is that for when it does come to the drought, this will be a huge benefit for the drought here, because obviously we do not want to see this drought expand more. We want to see this drought go away. And if this rainfall does come by and it does decide to try and help knock out this drought, I won't be too mad. But also, we're not going to sit here and root for any sort of like flash flooding or anything like that. That's not something that we do. Now, as we go in and take a look at the GFS for the past model for the 12Z here, this is over like the next 384 hours or so from the GFS here. It says overall, not as much though. 2, maybe 3 inches or so to around maybe 5 inches, so around 3 to 5 inches of rainfall according to the GFS. So the European definitely on the higher output here, definitely on the higher output. So if there is anything that you want to take away here, definitely you should take away that we're getting more active and drought relief is definitely on the way. So let's go on now and take a look at our temperatures. Starting off, we're going to talk about the anomalies first. And as we move over into tonight, going over into tomorrow morning, we know it's going to get warmer. We know it's going to be around 10, 15 degrees above average or so. But watch as we move into Wednesday. Watch as we go into Thursday. Cooler air is going to move its way through. From the upstate down to the Midlands, over into the low country, it's going to be cooler than average as we move into Wednesday night, going into Thursday. Now, as we move over into Friday, I'm going even into Saturday, Sunday even as well. You can move all the way throughout the weekend. It looks like that we're going to continue to just see those cooler temperatures kind of remain with us. Now, as we go over into next week, this is Monday here, going over into Tuesday, we're going to start getting back above average, around 10, 15 degrees above average. They're going to be even hotter over there in like Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, to where they're like 20 degrees above average. But here we're still going to be around on Wednesday. Moving over into Thursday, we're still going to be cooler than average and kind of warmer than average, kind of like a little bit of a flip. We talked about that flip as we went over into yesterday, as we talked about how we're going to have kind of a chance of some cooler air in some spots and then maybe some warmer air. And you can kind of see as we continue throughout even in August to how it still kind of decides and wants to kind of still be like a flip right now. So with that out of the way, let's go in and look at actual temperatures. So as we go over into tomorrow, we know it's going to be around 100 or so. Moving over into Wednesday, going to be around 100 still. Going into Thursday, things are going to start calming down. Things are going to start calming down as we go into Thursday in terms of the heat. Yeah, we still will be a little bit hot on Thursday, it does seem like. So it looks like that the models did kind of shift there, because the models yesterday and days past were saying that our temperatures would drop Wednesday instead of Thursday. But now the models are saying maybe Thursday is going to drop on Thursday, and then Friday is really going to be the first day to where we really see some cooler conditions. So honestly, that just means that the models are still changing. That means that things are still trying to be figured out here. And you just saw the cold front got pushed back a day. Now, as you move into Saturday, moving into Sunday, it's still going to be a bit cool. 90s or so, low 90s. But as we move into Monday of next week, things are going to be right back to normal, back up into those upper 90s. And things aren't really going to be too cool until maybe we get into like the end portions of next week. Yeah, the end portions of next week, until we get into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, etc. And overall, just things just continue to go on and kind of just flip back and forth. So what about those heat index values? Well, as we move into tomorrow, as we move over into, for example, Wednesday, things are still going to be around 100 to 105. We move over into Monday of next week, though, going to be back up again 105, 106 or so, maybe even higher for some. And then as we go in and take a look at the ensembles for the temperatures over the next 300 hours or so, we're going to start off here Tuesday on the 28th. And one thing that we're looking at, because obviously with the deterministic, once you get around 200 hours out, things start to get a little bit unreliable, so we're going to look at an average instead. We're going to get over into Wednesday, over into Thursday, and things actually look a bit cooler. I mean, you're seeing, for example, on Saturday, August the 1st, you're seeing temperatures down into the lower 90s as a mean, as an average. So that shows that maybe the start of August may not be so bad. May not be so bad at all. And that's pretty much all I have to say here in terms of the model. So let's go on now and take a look at the tropical weather outlook. And the first thing that you automatically see, Tropical Storm Bertha. Now, they have not updated the discussion quite yet. Let me see if they have posted it anywhere. But they have not updated it yet on their website. The National Hurricane Center has not. But they did post saying that the NOAA hurricane hunters find that the depression has strengthened into Tropical Storm Bertha. And so it's expected to obviously to gradually strengthen and could bring tropical storm conditions into portions of the Gulf Coast from the Florida Peninsula west into southeastern Louisiana on Tuesday and Wednesday. A storm surge watch is also in effect for Alabama, Mississippi, and southeastern Louisiana, where a life-threatening storm surge is possible. Interests elsewhere in Louisiana and Texas should continue to monitor the progress of the system, as additional watches could be required for portions of that area tonight or Tuesday. Areas of flash flooding will also be possible through Friday along the Gulf Coast and adjacent inland areas from western Florida north of Fort Myers to the middle Texas coast, including southern portions of Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. So I've been talking about those 4 or 5 states actually: Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas. I've been saying if you know anybody in those areas, let them know, especially the southern portions and the people along the coast. Let them know. And not only is tropical storm force conditions definitely possible for them, but look at all this rainfall they could see, around 1 to, what is that, around 1 to 4 inches of rainfall. Maybe even some areas get even higher than that into like portions of southern Louisiana. So overall, a good amount of rainfall is possible all the way, even into South Carolina. You can see South Carolina right there at the bottom, um, around like 1 to 4 inches of rainfall for a good amount of us. Maybe not from Bertha directly, also just due to the stalled front, but Bertha could maybe try and aid a little bit into that. And also peak storm surge. You see peak storm surge around 1 to 3 feet over there in ports of the Big Bend of Florida, the Alabama-Florida border around 1 to 2 feet near Indian Pass. In between the mouth of the Mississippi River and the Alabama-Florida border, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge there. And then Morgan City all the way over into the mouth of the Mississippi River, around 1 to 3 feet of storm surge. And that could increase. That could definitely increase as we get more and more into the future there. And rip currents also going to be a bit of an issue for areas of Florida going into areas of Louisiana going into today, tonight, and tomorrow. Even South Carolina does have a risk of some rip currents as you go over into tomorrow as well. And that's all that I can see here in terms of the official info right now. One thing that we can go on and look at real quick is the ensembles for the future of this thing. And this is what Tropical Storm Bertha looks like right now. This is currently what it looks like. And if I go on and here it is right here. This is what Bertha looks like right now. It doesn't really look the most organized, doesn't really look your most hurricane-esque storm, but it is a tropical storm. And even if you want to move on into the official cone, this is what it looks like. So if you want to see what that looked like, still not saying a hurricane. They're still not saying a hurricane for Bertha yet. If they will, or if they will not. Obviously models have been trending a little bit more towards the north, and obviously with the front, that makes it a little bit harder as well. So maybe we may not see a hurricane from this, which is what I was thinking potentially as we move over into the next couple of days there, especially if it took that southern track. Now, is it impossible? Still not impossible. Still not impossible. In fact, if we go in and take a look over at the model guidance right now, model guidance according to the hurricane models right now, they're still saying tropical storm, but they're not really saying too much else in terms of hurricanes. We go over and take a look at the global hurricane models in terms of their actual track. Most of them still continue their way down over towards the west, not bringing any threat here, any direct impacts over here to South Carolina. The GEFS does also have some strengthening going on over as you continue your way to the west, but still nothing hurricane material. And then the European still has maybe 1 or 2, maybe even 3 ensembles members here that are still saying that this could potentially still be a hurricane. So the possibility has not ended. The possibility for this thing to still become a hurricane is still not over yet. But I think that for the most part, it looks like that it's not likely to become one at all. Now, that's pretty much all I have to say there, really, in terms of the guidance. Again, here's what the cone right here. Again, remember, the cone is anywhere where the eye can go, and just because you're not inside the cone does not mean that you won't feel any impacts. That's not what the cone does mean. Remember, it is going west-northwest at around 3 miles per hour and currently 40-mile-per-hour winds, and is expected to downgrade into a depression going into Thursday late morning or early afternoon there. But that's all I have to say here in terms of the tropics here, as there is currently nothing else going on besides Bertha here. Bertha is the only thing going on, because if you look at everything else, nice and quiet, nothing going on over the next 7 days. And so let's go on now and talk with the audience for tonight. If you want to be a part of the audience, you can by joining us here at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time let's see what the audience has to say for tonight. Not a big audience tonight. I assume it is because we made the switch to 8 p.m. tonight and away from 9 o'clock p.m. So let's go ahead and check it out. Trail says, greetings, Joseph. Greetings to you. My cousin Cheryl says, good evening, Weatherman. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Hope you had a good weekend. Good evening, everyone. Hope all is well. Weatherman, do your thing, because we both have thunderstorms tomorrow. Also in Philly. Love you. Well, thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for that report over there. We'll be talking about Philadelphia in just a moment. My Nana says, hello, Jay. Hello to you. Mr. Anthony says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. And then Tish says, I'm assuming she means, hey, Joe. Well, hello to you as well. And that's all that I can see here throughout the chat here for tonight. Again, not too much. I'm assuming, again, it's 8 o'clock p.m., not 9 o'clock. That's our regular time. And so we're going to go on and do top fan of the night for tonight. I have no idea what to expect. I don't know if we're going to see a crazy amount of people responding or if we're going to see nobody responding. But we're still going to do it regardless, even if nobody does respond, because I still want to give somebody that opportunity to go on and answer for tonight. And so if you have no idea what the top fan of the night is, it is a thing that we go on and do here at 8 o'clock p.m. now, every night. And we see who was paying attention. So I asked a question that could have been asked from the very beginning of the stream to now. And if you get it correct first, you will be the top fan of the night for tonight. So I'm gonna go on and see who was paying attention. And yesterday's question was about the wildfire over there, so we're gonna try and avoid that and move on into another question. And so I'm going to start off and say, a pretty simple question here. If you remember, when we were talking about excessive rainfall, when we were talking about flash flooding, I said that as we move further and further into the week, that risk of excessive rainfall was going to move from one part of the state to another part of the state. What was that other part of the state that it was going to shift to? If you know that area, or if you give an area, you can give me a town, you can give me an area like in the Midlands or the upstate, or you can just give me like the eastern part of the state, or the southern part of the state, the northern part, the western part. You can say anything like that, but wherever, that excessive rainfall risk was shifting as we go more and more into the end part of the week is, whoever can get that question correct, you'll be top fan of the night for tonight. So please go on and answer that inside of the chat right now. If you're a subscriber, you can do so, as it is absolutely free to do so. And also remember, if you've not hit the like button yet or the subscribe button yet, go on and do so. We've had 51 people tune in tonight and only 8 likes. If you're a part of that group that has not hit the like button yet, that is a group of 43. Go and hit the like button. We're going to start off here with Raleigh, North Carolina first. You have low temperatures tonight here. Again, these are the 3 areas outside of South Carolina that we talk about. We talk about their areas because they tune in almost nightly, like, for example, my cousin Cheryl in Philadelphia right now. But starting off, Raleigh, North Carolina first. You have low temperatures tonight, 73. High temperatures for tomorrow at 94. And then low temperatures tomorrow night at 76. Chance of thunderstorms for tonight. And then as you move over into tomorrow, no storm activity there, no rainfall activity there. But tomorrow night, chance of thunderstorm activity is possible for you. Now, in terms of your future, it does look like temperature-wise, you're going to continue to actually kind of go down. I mean, you have, as you go more and more into like Thursday going into Friday, that the cooler temperatures will continue to move its way towards you as you get passed by a cold front. And not only that, but also you will continue to see that even as you move over into like the weekend potentially. But I think as you get more into like next week, like Monday, for example, your high temperature is going to be back up into the 90s once again. It will be active for you though. I mean, you have a chance of rainfall every single day until around like Sunday going into Monday, I believe so. And you're going to see a good amount of rainfall. Definitely going to see a good amount of rainfall. Tomorrow it could even be breezy. I mean, over like the next 7 days or so, you can see maybe around a good, 2 to 4, maybe even 5, 6 inches of rainfall over there in Raleigh as you move throughout the next 7 days. So Flash flooding is also going to be an issue for you. And speaking of severe weather and excessive rainfall, you have a slight risk of excessive rainfall tonight, a marginal risk for tomorrow, a slight risk for Wednesday, a marginal risk for Thursday, and then a marginal risk for Friday. So what does that mean? Tonight and then on Wednesday, you have a risk of scattered flash flooding, and then on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, you have a risk of isolated flash flooding. And then in terms of severe weather for you, you do have a risk of severe weather. Starting off as early as tonight. Slight risk of severe weather that does include that risk of damaging winds. You currently have storms moving towards you right now with winds of up to 50 miles per hour. So that's about to impact you over like the next, hour or so. And then as you go over into your risk of tomorrow, you do have a slight risk of severe weather for damaging winds, and then another risk on Wednesday. So you're going to be active. You're definitely going to be active. Now for Philadelphia, probably the more active area, just because of severe weather. We're going to talk about it tonight. No precipitation expected, but tomorrow thunderstorms are expected day and night. 70 as your low for tonight. High temperatures tomorrow at 85. Low temperatures tomorrow night at 71. You have a major risk of severe weather for tomorrow. Level 3 out of 5, you have a 5% risk of tornadoes, a 45 to a 59% chance of damaging winds, and a 15% risk of damaging hail. So winds being your main hazard here, and you pretty much have a 50-50 shot of receiving damaging winds of up to 60 miles per hour. I know, 50-50, that's still, you still have, a good chance there to not receive anything. But in weather terms, we see stuff at 5%, we see stuff at 15% do bad things. 45 to 59%, not saying it to scare you or anything like that, but also that's, one of the higher, that's like one of the higher areas there in terms of severe weather. So make sure that you're aware of that. Make sure you have that plan in place just in case for any sort of severe weather for you for tomorrow. But then in terms of excessive rainfall, looks like you do have a risk of excessive rainfall for tomorrow. Scattered flash flooding for you for tomorrow. And then other than that, you're looking good. Now, for your future, it does look like temperature-wise, you're going to continue to kind of just stay into the 80s, even as you go into next week, 88 on Monday. And then you're going to also see some rainfall all the way through Wednesday night even. But then once you get around Thursday, going all the way through into Sunday, nice and dry for you. And then the final location, Duncan, Oklahoma, you have low temperatures tonight at 75, high temperatures for tomorrow at 105, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 77. No precipitation over the next 7 days. It's going to continue to be hot, no severe weather, no excessive rainfall. Overall, things are just going to be hot and dry. That's your forecast for you. And that's all that I can see here. And already I'm looking inside the chat. We did have an answer, and it's Eastern. So my mom was the one who answered it. She's the top fan of the night for tonight. Again, if you want to be like my mom and win top fan of the night, you just have to be here early. You have to be a subscriber. And then also, you have to go on and just be active, be listening, because you never know what question I could ask. It could be from the beginning to the end, or I can, see maybe who sent me in a picture at scweather360.com. That's also another option there. Or I could see who was here in the chat first. It could be anything. So just make sure that you're always paying attention, always here early, always here being active inside the chat. And then I don't see anything else inside of my email. What's going on right now throughout the entire U.S. weather news-wise? Tropical Depression 2, or now Tropical Storm Bertha, is expected to gradually strengthen and could bring tropical storm conditions to portions of the Florida panhandle, not peninsula, and Alabama coast through Wednesday, where a tropical storm watch and a storm surge watch is also in effect. Numerous severe thunderstorms with heavy rainfall is expected from the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic into the Northeast going into tomorrow. And then we also have some storm reports over here in South Carolina as well. We had some storm reports come in. For right now, both of them were in Clarendon County near Somerton, where trees were down, and then also, honestly, just being tree down reports. So there was a storm that moved through Clarendon County a little bit earlier at 2018 Z, so that was around 5 p.m. or so that happened. So that's what we're looking at here in terms of weather news for what's currently going on and what may happen for the future and what happened today. And that's all that I can see here. I don't see anything else out the chat for me, so I'm out of here for tonight. Again, same time here tomorrow, 8 o'clock p.m. This is not just a one-day thing. This is, until, we move forward, going all the way into the rest of the week. And, I'll evaluate, see what happens, see if we are going to move back to 9, continue at 8. But for right now, for the rest of the week, it's going to continue to be 8 o'clock p.m. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow for your Tuesday morning forecast update. Also tomorrow evening for your Tuesday evening forecast update. As we will continue to go on and take a look at that. Also, Trail says it was a very hot day where she was. Well, thank you so much for that weather report. And that's all I can see here. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. Hit those 2 buttons before you leave if you are new. And make sure you go to my website, scweather360.com.